mu kifo kyaffe Kapeeka era nga Kapeeka we baatandikira ebintu by'enkulaakulana. Looking at our history, the history begins from our protectorate, the British. Era nga General Bakufuna bwe yagamba nti history yaffe kwegamba balina kampani yaabwe bano aba protectorate abajja okubuulira enjiri. Baali basajja bagezigezi tebajja kubuulira njiri yokka, baali bazira okufuna ekikola ki ebyobugagga. N'agamba nga history bw'enaabeera eya Ugandan company gye baafuna eyo nga yeebeera nga gy'oyita special purpose vehicle, ye yali ebakuŋŋaanira ebintu byabwe bakuŋŋaanyiza ebyo bagenda bafuna. So era n'abigadinga nti eyo yandibadde nga history yaabwe ya Uganda. The protectorate came in and introduced the use of private capital, the influence which helped us in the developing of Uganda. And the protectorate at the beginning, they came in at inception with their key interest was education, health, business and governance. They realized in London in 1903 that it was important to come up with this Ugandan company that would encompass or, hold these ideas that they had as they were going along. So under the Church Missionary Society, they came up with a Ugandan company, and its main objective was to overlook and develop more. We realized also that under them, there were gentlemen in 1907. I'm trying to give you a narrative how Kapeeka came about to be an industrial center. Actually, if at all, the first one in Uganda, we should appreciate that. And in 1907, Mr. Blaydon, who was a skilled rubber planter, and Mr. Wilkerson from Canada came in and they started developing the Ugandan company. They planted 19,400 rubber trees, and other ventures that were involved in this Ugandan company as they were encompassing. They did sugar, tea, coffee, and others. Okay. So, in the actualization, their ownership of Namunkekera was taken over. Their ownership was 1930, and the proximity, I believe, was okay for them, which was about 62 kilometers away from the city. It was very okay, and Namunkekera, I believe, was also a model that was used to get them raw materials to facilitate their industries back home. That way, Uganda enjoyed an economy, though they regret that if they had done potentially agreed getting into real scaling up production in plantations, Uganda would have boomed. Okay? So the Ugandan company goes on to provide also a labor solution for Ugandans. We also learn that in Namunkekera in 1900 agreement per the cartilage sheet was a crown land that was registered as a G6989 with an acreage of 1483, that is 1,583 acreage under the WMLC. Okay? Just to note that in 1918, at the time, the Buganda Land Board, or at the time after the Buganda Agreement, Namunkekera was made a crown territory, crown land, and production went on. However, for these British farmers, they were not allowed to, okay, it was passed that they would not own land, which was okay. So production went on. Regardless, they were comfortable with that. I believe at towards independence, they realized that probably, or they wanted to leave whatever they had started, probably for someone to sustain. They had other ventures. In 1948, a gentleman, an Indian, purchased the Ugandan company. An Indian trader at the time was Prabdas Kalidas, took over the Ugandan company. Again, went on with the rubber production, coffee, and the others. Then, thanks to God, we had few people, prominent businessmen, that are very interesting. glad to see their pictures. They took on the company formally in 1966. And these were Antonio, and Mukasa. They took on the company in 1966 and came up with in then they went on to carry on their own, I think they baptized it and took over. It became the industrial coffee grower. And they carried on production, but unfortunately they were a bit frustrated by the Obote government, despite of their other union that they thought they would get a license. They even had 150 primary society that were involved in other productions that they believed if they were blessed with a license, they would have taken on the mandate to become a union. So they were never. And shortly, the commissioner at the time interested them and told them, under the Obote government, you should sit to the East Mengo growers and work under them. And if they did tribute, they went on ahead. However, there was, I believe, a disclaimer. They said that work with the East Mengo would be operations on an agent basis and either rental. And being businessmen, I believe, like businessmen today, we rely on credit. So they went back to Langley at the time, Langley Bank, under Jackson, that told them this would not be economically viable. If you're to roast at 190 shillings, it won't break even for your company, given the fixed, or rather the costs that were prevailing in the business to run the company. And as they were engaging in that conversation, Mr. Kwebiha, under the UDC, the Uganda Corporation at the time, I don't want to give an opinion, he frustrated them and said, we are no longer interested. Either we'll cease and just forcefully take over. So these gentlemen went again further, and I stand to be corrected by director, engineer. I believe they went further in, as they were being frustrated. They were businessmen, relied on credit. How would you force someone to be under union? So I think they forcefully took over. The Obote government and the UDC took over the venture. They went on with other people, invited other chairmen on board, in Senator. But what I want to say, on that point, the point of interest is we have our chairman that was...
As you all know, this area was a war zone. This was a war zone, and no one expected something good to come out of here after this phase, which the managing director has talked about. So it took a lot of effort for General Salim Saleh to organize this war-rugged place to what you see today. So what did he start with? He started by losing his property. General Saleh had to part with a prime property, sacrificing for a prime idea, which is a very huge risk. That is losing what is tangible and you're getting what is not even existing. So that is what General Saleh did. He lost his property in Garuga, sold it against the family, and bought Namukekera. It was not given to him. He worked for it with his own. So, having bought Namukekera, which was a war-rugged place where they had fought, because they had been in the bushes, so he wanted to do a transformative project for the people of Greater Luweero, with a history of what had happened in the war. So, many people left the bush, but General Saleh never left the bush because he fought here, he stayed here. So, with that background of prime idea, for prime property, prime idea, we started Namukekera. And when he started Namukekera, he started with veterans. He started with veterans. And he majorly relied on agro production, agro processing, value addition. So in this very place, we started adding value to pumpkins. We're doing pumpkin, okay? We added value to honey. We produced briquettes. We produced, I think the biggest thing that was there for manufacturing was a hose. So at that time, General Saleh turned this area, this entire huge piece of land into a maize garden. And that maize garden gave birth to the first industry you see here called Yahe. that maize garden gave him the new idea that this place can actually become an industrial park. But to go back in 2002, when he met with His Excellency Yoweri Museveni in Karamoja, surprisingly, our president is almost a forward-teller. In 2002, he refused General Saleh from selling this place. He told him, don't sell Namukekera because one day it will be an industrial park. Many years before it could even attempt to be an industrial park. So today we are here, and it has come to pass. So he started the Namukekera Rural Industrial Center model. And in that model, that's where we're adding value to all those agro products. Now, a time came when Yahe had been started. He got a new idea. So in order to attract investments, he sold this entire piece of land for $1. So he gave away this huge chunk of land for $1. But this is called the $1 equation. That $1 attracted the Chinese investment. Many of you would have said, let him sell the land, get the money. But what he did, he said, here is my land, build factories, but for every product you produce, I have a percentage. Now, that made General Saleh a financial engineer because his returns on investment are generational. For as long as the full lifespan of the factory is there, he will never stop earning. Yet, he's not the owner of the industry. Yet, he's not the developer of the park. So, how many Ugandans have that kind of accuracy in financial engineering? So, this is where General Saleh stands out in as far as finances is concerned. And up to today, the huge investment you see here, he's the chairman of the industrial park. There is the developer, Mr. Zhang, and then we have the investors.
On 1st July 2006, Netukola groundbreaking, a year rural, agricultural rural industrial park. Tandikana yo engineer Jogeteko, my colleague. Leka today could be achievements. Ekifo kino ki transforming ze, ki developing ze. Kati mulumu industries abiri mu operational 28 industrial industries have been set up. Abiri mu munana era operational 19 kujazira bamuze olwokutaano mukaaga. Ekyo kireetedde enkulakulana mu Kapeeka, Luweero and the rest of Uganda. Kubanga buli kimu kye mulaba wano abakolamu abo abantu abawera almost omutwalo bava mu districts endala all over the country. They are not only from Kapeeka. Ate mu Kampala tukakati twagala tuleete awareness, tulage ebintu ebirimu be babadde tebamanyi. Ndowooza nammwe abasinga mubadde temanyi nti waliwo ceramics, mubadde muwulira goodwill tiles, naye nga tulina ebintu bingi. We have the dry fruits nga mangoes, pineapple. Kakati tugenda kubalaga brand awareness, brand visibility, brand positioning and promoting our products in the market. We are utilizing only 20% of the area. Tulinawo more area abantu basobola okukola ki okweyongera okuleeta industries eddala. Ekirala kibadde tulina era nga omukulu engineer bwayogedde managing director omukulu General Sale yali ayagala aweeyo back to the community kubanga bali wano mu lutalo era ekyakikoze ne bwe muba mubasse mutunga muvuga mulaba there's a big difference. The whole place has developed and grown. Era we expect more. We are now celebrating a transformation. Twagala okulaga abantu General Sale ne visionary ye he put it in place. Ate kyaba ne president naye predicting nti Wanno from industries amaanyi. Sina bingi ebyokwogera naye nsanyusa nnyo okubalaba era tukwagala okubalaba.
Ensonga enkulu tuteekateekesa omukolo guno bwe buvunaanyizibwa bwaffe nga Napil. Ndowooza director waffe yayogedde dda wa Napil nti ffe tukwanyaganya oba tukwataganyisa industrial park ne services endala, external services, okubanoonyeza maketi, okubatuusa kwe batasobola kwetuusaako. Abachina abasinga tebamanyi lulimi, beegola Oluchina, tebamanyi Luzungu. Kati factories ezimu osanga bakozesa oyogera kyogera ne bakuvunulira ku ssimu. So kitegeeza nti basobola kwetuusaako marketing ffe gye tukola. Ekigendero ekikulu kyekyo kya trade show kulaba nti products zino zireme okukolebwa ne zituulawo mu factories. Mu office ya General Sale eno si secretary kyokka naye nvunaanyizibwa n'okulambuza abagenyi ba General Sale baba asisinkanye ng'ayagala balambule industrial park nze abatwala. So osanga ebiseera ebisinga nga tebamanyi nti ebintu ebyo bikolebwa wano, buli omu atuuka nga yeewuunya. Ate ebintu ebimu ne bikolebwa n'ebirawo nga bitudde. Factories ezimu zitunda ne zipayiringa ebintu naye nga bijjudde awo tebitambula. Ate ng'abantu bali bize bakola ki? Bimportinga ebintu byebimu ebikolebwa ekapeeka. So nze nzikiriza nti eno trade show ng'ekirowoozo kya Napil bwe kyabadde nti bwe tunakola trade show eno egenda ku attractinga abantu bangi okujja okugula ebintu bino ate balekeraawo okugula ebweru. Nga president bwe yayokera e Kololo nti to discouraging ennyo imports, promoting factories zaffe zikolebwa wano mu Uganda, tugule ebintu ebikolebwa wano. Naye abamu tetubavunaana kuba tebamanyi. Omuntu omugamba nti toilet zikolebwa ekapeeka nga kweri tayiri ziguze goodwill ddala zivaawo ekapeeka. So yensonga lwaki buli omu jangu weerabire ebintu bino bikolebwa ekapeeka era bigenda bitundibwa mu bbeeyi ntono. Tugenda kuba tubitunda mu bbeeyi ntono mu trade show eno. Kyetuva twagiyise trade show and bazaar. Namunkekera trade show and bazaar twagala tutunde ku bbeeyi ntono, buli omu yeetwalire ekintu ekyo akitestinga alabe nti kigumu ddala quality ennungi. Toilets zaffe, tiles zaffe tutestinga amayinja nga tetunabakola ki kugakozesa. Ne tulaba nti quality ennungi. Nali nnyonyoddeko last week nti bakola ng'ebintu biringa pancakes n'ozikuba wansi sound evaamu ekulaga nti nejinja liri good quality oba si good quality. Tukozesa feldspar, white marble, kwasi, lime, clay okukola bino bye tukola mu tiles ne toilets. Ezo ze leading factories zaffe wano kubanga tetwa-outsourcinga resources oba materials. Tetugula bikozesa bweru, tubigula wano mu Uganda. Kyova olaba ezisingayo okukola ssente ate nga factories endala tuimportinga raw materials. Naye goodwill ne Wawi toilet factory bye tukozesa tubigula wano mu Uganda. So ng'abalina amayinja batamanyi mugaso gwago nga mujje mugakebere muyinza okufunamu obuwanana bw'ensimbi ne mufuuka bannagagga. Ebintu tubigula wano mu Uganda nga bwe mbawulidde kulwa factories ezebbiri. So mujje tugule ebintu ebya omutindo gwa waggulu gwe mubadde temumanyi oguli wano ekapeeka. Bbeeyi egenda kuba ng'eri wansi nnyo nga buli omu asobola okugula ali interested. Mwebale nnyo.
Omulanga mujje mulabe ku bintu ebisinga obungi bitalinaba kubeerawo mu Uganda. Abasinga mulowooza ebintu biva China bingi nnyo kubanga factories ebikola bingi nnyo. Buli kitu kiwetaaga, in fact household 60% kiwetaaga mu nyumba yo kiva kapeeka. So abantu abasinga mujje mwerabireko, mujje n'akasente musobole okugula ebintu nga temukakiddwa nga ate tewaliwo kintu kibalemesa ng'ate ebintu biri kabeeyi ka wansi. Namunkekeera etumbudde ekitundu kino wenjogera essaawa zino tuli mu factories nga babagambye 28 19 zero operational n'ebintu ebisinga obungi bikolebwa eno. So basebo ne banyabu fenga abalimi mujje tusobole okutumbula ekitundu kyaffe. Tulina factory zitatera kwogerako, factory ekola juice. Abalimi mujje mulabe gye tutunda juice waffe, mujje mulabe gye tutunda amabidde gaffe, ate era mujje mutuwagire ngaffe Nappiru kubanga twabateerawo farm service center tugezezaako tambula nammwe, ne kati mujje mulabe omutindo gwe tuzzeeko ogwa waggulu nti kati buli kimwetaaga kigenda kubeerawo. Mujje mumwoleso kubanga mugenda kubeeramu n'abalimisa bangi nnyo n'abantu abatunda ebyobulimi betupatanirize nabo bangi. So saagala muntu asigalayo.